Everyone, welcome back. I can't believe this. So, if you're watching this for the first time, this is my second show of the night. If you're watching this the very first time, you wouldn't know of the other recording. So, I had a little bit of a glitch and I'm now back. So, welcome again to another thrilling episode of Margaux with Margaux. I'm Margaux Monet and this is my glass of Margaux. How are you guys doing this evening? Mm, 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 mm. Today is April 15th. Today's hump day. How was your Wednesday? Welcome to Periscope. There's some new people joining in. I'll give you a few more moments. I'm doing great. Thank you, Matthew. Mm, I'm doing great, everyone. So let's go back to the previous discussion. So, all day today I was thinking, what can I talk about on Periscope, right? If you're a person who's really struggling, you're in between jobs, you just lost your job, your girlfriend just left you, you have two kids, you have a mortgage, you have problems, right? You always had problems, but now you have a lot of problems. I think the pandemic really shows us, society, how big of a difference it is between being very wealthy and being a regular person, correct? We live in a really great country, and it definitely shows the inequities that are obvious. Um, and when you have $1 million and you're complaining, or you live in a big estate and you're complaining, it's kind of weak, correct? Because there's so many people who are just trying to pay. In fact, waiting on getting their check, that $1,250 check, means a lot. So I thought to myself, what can I really tell you that can help you in your life? I think the best thing I could tell you is to love yourself, know that things can get better. We're all spiritual beings living a human experience, so work on your faith. I think that's the real cornerstone. Whether you have money or no money, you have to have a strong element of faith. Um, and develop who you are, develop your mind. There's a lot of great books online. I can share with you some really good books, and I'll talk about that later. But there's a lot of great information you can find that can really help you. How do I get from this point in my life to the next point in life? You certainly can do it. It is very possible. How? I don't know. This is why it's important for you to understand that life is a game. And this whole human experience is really a game. It's good against evil. There are good people who listen to the higher nature and they're better angels and serve humanity in a deep and spiritual way. And there's people who are very dark, who exploit, use, and they're power hungry, focused on wealth and power as much as you can. The problem is when these people are running companies or they're making all of our decisions that affect millions of people in our country, it's detrimental, because the long-term ramifications of poor decision making for a person who's completely selfish, completely demented, completely tortured, or wherever the case may be, the destruction is obvious. And you can see that in society. You know it as well as I do, that there's a good and there's a bad. I don't know why humans are so bad. If you look at other species, they kill each other because they have to kill for their own survival. Well, we will hurt and do everything we can to hurt other people for whatever the reasons. There's sort of a darker part of nature. So the question becomes, I read this book years ago called, it's called, Road Less Travel by M. Scott Peck. Road Less Travel, which you can get a free copy, a free ebook copy. I'll send that to you. So here we go. And in a book I thought was really interesting that I read in my early 20s, it said, life is difficult. And once you accept that life is difficult, it's not as difficult. And what that means is you grow up and you realize that whatever you want in life, you're going to have to fight for it. And whenever you get something, you're going to have to fight really hard to keep it. But you have to understand how the wealthy think, how they see the world, and how do you use that knowledge to help you on a personal level. It's a really interesting thing, and I don't really know how to explain it all to you, or how do I explain it to you is a really interesting thing, but I will give it some more thought. But the reason I thought about this even more is I was thinking about what's going on in China. I mean, not China, but what happened with the coronavirus. Did any of you guys watch President Trump's coronavirus update, or he's now getting the country back on its feet and wants to get the economy moving? And the argument is that now that you've looked at how many people have died and how many cases, the argument becomes uh, the longer our country is this way economically, we can destroy ourselves. And so most people are really more concerned about economics as much as health, which I think is probably the case. I do want to start saying I'm very sorry to hear about the number of people who've passed away. I'm very sorry to hear about the people who have coronavirus. It's a horrible disease. If you do get it, it's something that's just horrific. And I wish it on anyone, and my prayers and thoughts with you. So this is in no way saying that those people who passed away, that their lives had no meaning. I truly believe that people who have passed away really want us, the living here on planet Earth, to go on and live productive lives and do what we can to love and support each other. So that's just my personal opinion. Now, the reason I brought up the light and dark of human nature, which is something that you have to become conscious of or aware of, if you're not, which you probably are, there's bad people, then you have to examine this whole situation with the World Health Organization. Now, first off, I just want to tell you quickly, I agree with the president withholding the funds and looking at it further to figure out what's going on. My thought process is the following. If you're paying a lot of money for something, you want good value, whether it's a car that you just bought and paid $15,000 or $10,000 for, you want to make sure that you got what you paid for, correct? Whatever they state is in the car, you want to make sure you got your value, right? You value your time, you value your money, and we should value our money, right? Because we give hundreds of millions of dollars away to the World Health Organization. Now, the question becomes, should we stop the World Health Organization completely? That's a whole nother discussion, but he's pulling back the money to sort of look into what's going on. Now, I know personally, knowing a lot more than I should, which I'm really, really a curious person, by the way. I read and I examine everything. Um, you have to look at this from a point of view. Is the World Health Organization serving a greater purpose? I think it does. Can it be doing both? Can it actually serve a great purpose? But in this particular situation with the United States and China, it did not. I think it's both. I think the organization as a whole means well, right? World Health Organization. But did they do the job that they need to do? My feeling is it did not. If you look at the tweets and you look at all the information online, it's obvious that they did not do their job. Why didn't they do their job? I don't know. But knowing what we know about really bad people, and we understand how governments work and how people are paid off. And what's interesting is I'll tell you a funny story. So I have a really rich, really powerful friend. So I said, hey, I'll just make up a name. Hey, Jim, hey, do you always pay off everybody, politicians, everything to get what you want? He says to me, well, that's why you're wealthy, so you can pay off everybody to get what you want. So corruption is everywhere. And that's why I always love those thrillers, those action thriller movies, television, those espionage thriller shows, because there's some of it is based on reality. Yes, people do get tortured. People pay off people. Why do you think the drugs are in the United States? Because a lot of people were paid off. Hello, hello, hello. It is a corrupt world that we live in. Now the question is, okay, now to explain to you that perhaps there's a lot more going on with the World Health Organization that's being reported. We know now that I've shared with you the darker part of nature, and that there's some really wealthy, powerful people that want to keep this information a certain way, a certain thing, right? Because if you're interested in more wealth and more power, you don't care about the millions of people thousands of people who die, right? Because you want to be more powerful, more rich at the expense of human life, which happens a lot. If you look at history and you look at what's going on, we put people in positions of power because we hope that they serve the constituents. They hope they serve you, the taxpayer, but many times they do not. There's a political structure. There's this person knows this person, that person knows that person, and la, 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 and a lot of mess comes in. Not to say that everybody's evil and bad. There's some really good people. really quality people that should be in the position that really care about the constituents and are good people. But there are, of course, there's some bad people. And if a bad person or bad people have that kind of influence in the World Health Organization, should that information be exposed? And the whole purpose of me even doing this show is I got tired of looking at the homeless people. I was at some really fancy party in San Francisco in December, and I'm dressed up, really excited about this charity event. It's a Christmas party. And I was in San Francisco and I just saw way too many homeless people. And I just thought to myself, homelessness was supposed to be like for a few people, sort of just a few people who didn't make it. And it was just a few people that were homeless. We're now seeing societies of homeless people. We're seeing horrible human beings, not they're not horrible, but horrible situations these human beings end up on. To me, when I think of someone homeless, I think of that person as a person who could have been a great artist. That's a person who could have contributed to society. Perhaps that person could have been a congressperson. Perhaps that person could have been a lawyer, or perhaps that person could have been a great mom or good teacher. And they're now homeless. And whatever the situation is that person found themselves in, we need to have a society that supports them to getting on their feet. Now, do I think handouts is the answer? No. You have to teach people and have them relearn new human behavior. Human beings are quite extraordinary. We can learn, we can adapt. Look how well you've adapted to this whole shed-in. Haven't you adapted? Somewhat, right? And we all can adapt. And so you reteach people how the whole system works. And you have to be honest. And that's why I felt with this show, I said, I have to be honest with you. Life is really unfair. It truly is. And this pandemic actually shows how unfair it is. So our job as citizens is to make our society a better society. And if people are not doing the right thing, we hold them accountable. What I thought was interesting was yesterday the president mentioned that he was pulling out of the White House, pulling out of the World Health Organization, that he was going to stop funding because he wanted to look into it further. And then I read in the papers, everybody's against him. Everybody's against him. Why are you doing this? This is in the middle of a pandemic. Millions of people are going to die. This is the worst. I mean, it really looks like he's like the most evil person in the world, right? If you look at all the headlines. And I just knew that he was doing the right thing, despite all those headlines, despite all the pushback that he's getting. And he doubled down on it today, which I thought was admirable. So who my hero today is Donald Trump, is my hero today for standing up and saying, look, this is American taxpayer money. I want to know more of what's happening. Will it stop all the other things that are going on with World Health Organization immediately? No. But by President of the United States making a really strong stance of why they decide to sort of have more transparent look behind the lens, so to speak. And sometimes you have to follow your instincts. You know it as well as I do. I could just give you countless examples, and I'm sure you've had them as well, where you just feel like something just isn't right, right? Whether it's your sister and you realize she's in a bad relationship, maybe a horrible relationship, and she's always pretending to be happy, but you think something is going on. Or maybe a kid in your school could be going through a really hard time, but you really feel there's something going on. Those instincts is our wisdom that God has given us to navigate the world. And so you have to use your instincts. Obviously, there's something going on. If you look at the tweet that the World Health Organization stated that it was not transmittable from person to person. Could the World Health Organization be wrong? Well, it's possible, right? But knowing the darker part of human nature, I have to look at this a little bit deeper and say, there's something could have gone wrong, right? So we're going to find out a lot more about this later on. It's a whole nother discussion. I'm sure more information is going to be in the media, and we'll continue to talk about that even further. But that's why I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to say to you, I'm sorry, you're in a shitty, terrible situation right now. I care. I don't know what I could do to help. The best advice I could do to you is to love yourself, appreciate yourself, and understand that business is a game. And you have to understand how games are played, how human beings study psychology and understand how we see the world. My perception of reality is different than your perception of reality, correct? I see things that you don't see. And our minds open up depending on how we want to see the world. We have our opinions. It's always good to ask yourself why you have certain opinions and certain reality, correct? Because reality that you're probably operating in is probably not the best reality you could be operating in, correct? If you were operating in a different reality, you probably could understand what it is that you could do differently. I hope I'm making sense. Am I making sense? But you get what I'm trying to state, right? My reality of seeing the world and someone else's reality of seeing the world is completely different. That's why relationships are really hard. That's why you have difficulty. Some people have difficulty working with a partner at work. That's why relationships are very difficult. This person was raised with a certain way of thinking. This person was raised with a certain way of thinking and seeing the world. They both have a different viewpoint of what love looks like in a relationship. They jump together and then they figure out why the relationship doesn't work. So relationships are difficult because human beings are very unique in itself. My specific way of seeing the world is completely different than my husband's point of view of seeing the world. Um, and the way you view the world is the way you react in the world. And by golly, that's usually what will come to you in the world. So you have to be conscious and aware of what it is that you're doing and what it is that how you interpret and how you see yourself in this planet Earth and where it is that you need to go. So I did recommend some really good ebooks. If you email me at graceandkwhite@gmail.com, graceandkwhite@gmail.com, that's my assistant, I will send you the free ebooks. Now, I think I'm going to throw in this other one too, but here's the 5 or 6 books. Email me which one you want. Now, if you want all of them, just say you want all of them, but if you want 1 or 2, just let me know. One is A Man Thinketh. I think A Man Thinketh is one of the easiest books to read. It's 20 minutes long, written by James Allen about 100 years ago. Talks about the power of your mind, the power of your words. Now, if you examine the Bible, God breathes in you that your words have great power. We know that from the Bible verses. Just go back. It's our inherent, it's our creativity. We're one with God. We're in this energy space together, breathing and living as one. We're all human. We're all deeply connected as one. We are. Yes. True. Yes. Even the bad people, they're part of ours that we don't want to see, but we're all in this together. So that book is really powerful, called A Man Thinketh. The next book I thought would be really good to share was Think and Grow Rich. And the reason I really like Think and Grow Rich is I read it when I was fairly young because I love to read. And even if I know stuff, I'll read it again. I'm just like that. I'll read it again. I'll see a TV movie again. I'll see a series again. Because every time I read something, see something, a second or third time, I always learn something new. Because my perception changes, right? First time you see it, you have a different reality. Second time you see it, you have a different reality. But for the most part, I enjoy reading, and this is a book that's really good. Now, 2 of my friends are self-made billionaires. Both read that book at different points early in their life. One read the book as a teenager, came from a very, I would say, humble, really humble beginnings. And when he told me when he read that book, he knew he would be very rich. And his goal at the time was to be the richest person in the world. Well, is he the richest person in the world? Not yet. But he read the book, and of course, that became one of his goals. The second person read the book. They had a regular job, and they read the book, and they became a billionaire. So the book is well worth the time to look at. So if you're a person, even if you don't want to be really wealthy or whatever your goals are, the book has great information that you can grow and learn from. So that's the second book. The third book, which I think is really good, is written by Norman Vincent Peale, called The Power of Positive Thinking. Because people will say, well, Margaux, you're way too positive. Aren't you too positive? No, because I understand life. See, I know I have to be positive. And the reason why you're positive is because if a deal or an opportunity has a chance to become successful, I have a higher probability of it working out in my favor if I'm positive. It's just a very scientific way of looking at it. If I have 100 different transactions that I'm working on and I assume all of them going to close, I actually assume every single deal that I decide to get in part of will succeed. Because why would I do it if I don't think it will succeed? If I already feel it won't succeed, I won't even pursue it. I go through a series of steps in sort of deciding whether this is something I want to pursue. If I do try 100 different transactions, correct, and one transaction goes through, I make a lot of money. That's just the bottom line. So with a positive attitude and a positive goals, you will force your way, you will peel your way through whatever channels it needs to be a reality. The first step is you have to believe. You have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in your goal. If you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in your goal, you're not going to make it, no matter how hard you try, because your subconscious mind can sabotage you if your mindset isn't correct. So another good book to read is Power of Your Subconscious Mind. That's written by Joseph Murphy, I believe his name is, and it's a really good book. So that's another one. Another book, so that's Power of Subconscious Mind, Think and Grow Rich, Power of Positive Thinking, Man Thinketh. Another one that's really good is M. Scott Peck's book, A Man Thinketh. And the reason I really enjoy A Man Thinketh, just so you understand why I enjoy the book. So I read that book in my early 20s. Whew, getting a little hot, probably because of Nixon Fire, huh? The reason why I really enjoy the book, um, um, the reason I really enjoyed the book Road Less Traveled is it's a psychiatrist, and he talks about the relationship between spirituality and psychology. And what he found is the more spiritually advanced a person becomes, the more their intellect and uh, their I would say they will grow spiritually. For instance, they wouldn't have a fear-based way of seeing the world. They would have a more open view and they would grow. So, but it's an interesting thought because most psychiatrists and most psychiatry in general don't really like to study the darker part of human nature, the evil part of ourselves, which is not the easiest thing to look at, correct? If you were studying something, would you really want to study the horridness of our nature? Probably not. So it's something they really rarely talk about, but he does in his book. Really great book. It's called A Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, and I will give you that ebook as well. Now, today I was thinking of another book that would be good, would be The Magic of Thinking Big by Charles Schwartz. Very good book as well. And the reason I bring it up is you have to think big in life. You have to think of yourself as being capable of doing what you state you're going to do, whatever that goal is, and never be afraid of big goals and big dreams, because if you want them to come true, you have to have big goals and big dreams to even begin to work on them. So use this time that you have right now to look at your life and say to yourself, what can I do better? Perhaps it's asking your boss for more money. Perhaps it's doing something differently. And yes, you have to work your butt off. Absolutely. Having your own business and your own company, whether you're an entrepreneur running a company or an executive, whatever the case may be, you work extremely hard. That's just the way the game is. In order to get something in life, you got to work hard to get there. You have to work hard to keep it. And if you're smart, you will leave something for your kids and teach them how to keep it too, because that's really important, right? Because you read a lot of stories that most of the wealth is lost in the third generation. You want this wealth to continue, continue, continue. So you have to train your kids early on how to accumulate wealth, how business works, so they won't blow it. Because wouldn't it be terrible? You do become really successful and your kids just blow through all the money. I've seen it happen lots of times. So, but that's what I really wanted to share with you. You have to ask yourself, I deserve to have a good life because God has created you, because you're talking to me. Hi. And you're special. And get the ebooks, read about it. And now, if you go on and you become enormously successful, which I am really happy for you, not all your family and friends and people around you, because they may be jealous. I hate to say this. Some will be happy, some will not. Um, Contact me and tell me how great you're doing, because I love to hear that I did something positive and you read one of the books and your life changed. Correct? Okay, so yesterday I talked a little bit about TV shows on Netflix, and I talked about last week's sci-fi movies. If you go back over the last 2 months, some of my prior shows are on YouTube where I talk about these different shows in different areas. I mean, I'm going to go back into that discussion. I just don't know what I could do to really help, because I really started to share. I want to talk about the homeless problem, but I really don't want to talk about that now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody's just trying to figure out their way to get through this world. I recommend yoga. I recommend going on walks. I recommend spending time alone. I recommend writing a journal to get your thoughts. Now, if you have a lot of anger and pain and suffering and just crap, pour it out on a piece of paper. Just let it loose. Just say all the bad words you want to say, horrible things. This person did this to me, that person did that. Get all that negativity out of your psyche. It's important so you can create this abundance and love and goodness that you deserve to come in your life. But if you're carrying around all this negativity, it's like a doggone, I don't know, it's like a cloud around you. You want to get rid of it. So get rid of all the negativity. Stay very uplifting and positive. Just know that life is an incredible gift. We're here for this wonderful moment. If you're going through a crappy time, call a friend, call someone you know, and just say, I had a really crappy day. How was your day? And they'll say, well, I had a really crappy day. Sometimes you just need a good friend to talk to. So find good people to talk with that care, and we will get through this whole coronavirus together because we deserve to do this. Now, I just don't like the fact that the way things are happening in the middle class isn't as good. I just don't think there's enough good opportunities. And we'll talk about that in general. Let's just get everyone back to work, and we'll discuss some things that I think could possibly help in some way. Now, keep in mind, most of the advice I'm giving you is just my advice, my personal viewpoint. And I have my own way of seeing the world, my own way of thinking. And I want you to find yourself. I want you to look at yourself, find yourself, and figure out where it is that you want to be in the next 10, 5 to 15 years. And say to yourself, maybe there's some things in your life you're just not going to put up with anymore. Maybe it's a bad relation. Maybe it's a crappy boss. Make some choices. Make some strong choices of what you're not going to tolerate. Put some boundaries down and decide where it is you want to go, where it is you want to be, and where it is that you want to go and do. And find yourself. I'm going to drink a little bit of one real quick. If you watched me last night, I had lasagna for dinner. I'm having lasagna again tonight as well. Okay. So I spoke a little bit about that. So we'll see what happens with the World Health Organization and the country going back to work, and we'll sort of address certain issues as they come up. But those are some of the things I want to discuss. Oh, another thing. On a health note, I have been experimenting with herbs. I've been experimenting with aromatherapy and all these different outside of Western medicine. It's well worth a try. I don't want to say specifically, but I had something with me medically. My husband did, and we both used herbs. I kind of played around a little bit and got used to, a little bit of this, a little bit of that herb. And I was able to cure us of something, which I don't want to mention because it's really personal. But as a side note, it's well worth looking into herbs, Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, and look at alternative ways to do things. I think human beings are intended to live very long lives, and it's well worth examining your diet, examining your attitude, examining your energy level, understanding how energy works, and how it's very important to understand that there is wealth all around us. Wealth is circulating, and all you need to do is learn how to tap into whatever that source, whatever that wealth may be. Also, keep in mind your money is power. Don't waste it on crazy stuff. Everybody overcharges for everything. It's all a game. So don't overspend. I find myself overspending too, and I ask myself, why am I overspending? But keep in mind, it's all a game. A lot of things you don't need. Keep the money, build your wealth, and continue to grow and make the best of it. So tomorrow I'll talk about more TV shows and more other subjects. But the key point I wanted to bring out was that free ebooks. Email me. If there is a book that you love that was written years ago, I may have an ebook of it. That's how I would say I'm a lover of books. I'm an avid reader. So love to learn and grow. I love all of it. And I love TV shows and movies. So if those are the subjects you want to talk about in business, I'm getting better at. I wouldn't say I am the best person in business ever existed. No, but I am always learning and growing. And I will share with you some tips at a later point. So thank you guys for joining me. I really enjoyed meeting you. And thank you for another wonderful episode of Margaux with Margaux. I'm going to have some lasagna. I'll be here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for joining me. If you came on the second time this evening, I would like to say thank you. Oh, hold on. You should always turn your cell phones off in the middle of a live show. Oh, The Healing Code by Alexander Load. I'll read it. Thank you so much for sharing it. Is it a good book? Yeah, you know what? We should talk about good books. There's so many great information that people write about. I mean, I could give you more books than you can even imagine, but that one I haven't read, so I certainly. Oh, you know what? I will check to see if I have that ebook. I may have, and I don't even know it. So I'll check because I have a lot of books. I may have that book and don't even know it. So send me an email and state so I can send you the book if I have it and have a way of getting a hold of you. So email me at graysonkwhite@gmail.com. GRAYSON, K as in kite, White, WHITE @gmail.com. You can find his name on my at Margaux Show and at Margaux Monet. I think it has the name there. I recommend sending it to him because he can get to it right away. There also is another way you can do it. Um, if you send me any information on the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, just add some information on comments and I will figure out a way to get to you. So thank you. Oh, you have multiple copies. Oh, okay. Well, I'll read the book, so you're fine. Okay, I'm going to find out about the book because I know so little about it. Thank you for joining me for another thrilling episode of Margaux with Margaux. My lasagna is ready. We're going to talk about wines, TV shows. I travel a lot. I'm hoping we can travel again. I'll show you some really good sites of some of the things I'm always learning about. I love fine art. I sell off-market art. I'm a collector of art, so I go to a lot of art shows. We'll do a show about art and a lot of interesting things, and we'll continue to learn and grow together. My goal and my hymn in life is the following. I want to help as many people as I can before I get my angel wings. Thank you. I want to help and inspire people before I get my angel wings and feel as though I did something to make this world better before I went on. I don't know if we're reincarnated. I don't know if we come back. That's a whole nother discussion. But I always say to God, teach me everything I know now so I don't have to come back and do this wonderful thing again. This is one pandemic too many, and I hope I don't have to go through it again. But if I do, so be it, right? This is what we need to be, and sometimes we're here to learn and grow. So we use experience, even the negative experience, to grow and develop and become a better person. I think the pandemic for myself has made me a lot more aware of how fragile life is, and I appreciate everybody and everything more. So thank you guys. Love you. And I will see you tomorrow. Promise. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm on YouTube. If you like what I'm saying, subscribe to me. I'll send you more information. We'll continue this exciting relationship. If you see me on Periscope, that's great. If you see me on Twitter, hi. So welcome and have a wonderful evening. And thank you for joining me. Take care.